Hello, and welcome to a step-by-step guide to bullet journaling. If you haven't checked out our first video, Getting Started with Bullet Journaling, feel free to do so now. Now that we've covered what bullet journaling is and the sort of things you can track, I thought I would walk you all through my personal process to help you get some ideas of your own. The very first thing I like to do is pick a theme. I personally pick an overarching theme for the year and then some specific categories for the theme each month. For 2020, for example, my theme was plants, so I could do pine trees for January, sunflowers in August, and cacti in May. This year, for 2021, I chose to do light, mostly because 2020 had been a pretty dark year. Some people don't pick an overarching theme, which is totally fine as long as you're happy with how you're journaling. Sometimes it can be difficult to pick a theme, so if you need help getting ideas, try using Pinterest to see what some other users have done. Remember, if the artistic side of bullet journaling is too intimidating or even too time consuming, feel free to skip this step and stick with a minimalist style. Everyone bullet journals for different reasons, and the most important part is to do what keeps you organized and you consistent. You're the one who will be using it anyway. Once I've decided on a theme, I'll plan out the first pages of the month, also known as a monthly spread. People typically use this area in their journals to measure progress over the course of an entire month, rather than spreading that information out over a year or breaking it up into weeks. I personally use this space to keep a calendar for tracking holidays, birthdays, or events, as well as keep track of my sleep, mood, and finance. Some of the things I track might not be helpful for you to track, and that's okay. Feel free to customize these pages towards your own goals and aspirations. When working on my monthly spread, and the same goes for any other spread I'm working on, I try to work on multiple things on the page at once. This is because I work in pen and marker, so if I'm working in the same area and my hand is working over the same part of the page before it dries, there's a chance I'll smudge what I've just finished. I also recommend working in pencil first and using a straight edge so that you can go back and fix any mistakes, and so that everything looks pretty clean. The more neat the pages, the more likely you are to stay organized. The next 4 or 5 sets of pages are dedicated to the weekly spread, and this is where we decide to track information on a daily or weekly basis. I personally like to keep track of to-dos and or appointments, my habits, and menus, as I'm someone who likes to meal prep. But again, you can decide to customize this space in whatever way fits your needs. I like to pick my layout based on what I think fits the theme I've picked in my head, but some people have a preference for how their stuff is organized. You can use a horizontal layout that I used for June, a vertical layout like I've used for May, or a boxed layout like I used in January and March. You can probably tell by now that I enjoy the creative side of journaling and therefore put a lot of time into the spreads that I make. In order to keep myself from feeling overwhelmed and allow myself plenty of time to get these spreads done before I start to use them, I complete an entire month of my journal the month before I need that spread. For example, I'm currently making this video in May and have already started working on my spreads for June. I found this is a really good way to develop skills against procrastination and enhance time management. Finally, the very last part of my journal that I plan out each and every month is the diary portion. This part is typically the fastest and easiest section to complete, mostly because I want to give myself as much room as possible to write. While keeping a diary doesn't necessarily add anything in terms of organizational skills, I find that it really helps to support your mental health. Now, even with 12 months worth of these spreads, you'll find that you still have room to track more. What I've done is use this space to track yearly goals and their progress. At the beginning of my journal, I set aside space to track important dates, the books I'm reading, and the goals I want to achieve. At the end of my journal, like I did for 2020, I plan on making a timeline of all the important events that happened that year and writing a yearly reflection so that I'm actually setting aside time to think about the progress I've made. I think it'll be really cool to look back 20 years from now to remember what life was like. Hopefully, I've convinced you to take up bullet journaling, but before you start, there are a few things you'll need. The most obvious is a dotted notebook, and because they come in a wide assortment of colors and sizes, I recommend the Dingbats 192-page journal. These journals are made of recycled materials, and a portion of their proceeds are donated to save endangered wildlife, and they should last you the entire year. People on Pinterest might try and convince you otherwise, but the brand for pens and markers doesn't really matter as long as you have enough variety in colors and tips. Again, everything you decide to implement is meant to suit your needs. For more study tips like this, feel free to check out the Study Labs and Academic Coaching's resources.